The blood oath of Amina and Jide. The sun beat down on the ancient lands of Yorubaland, casting long shadows across the rolling hills and lush forest. For generations, two powerful clans, the Iliko and the Ojo, had been locked in a bitter feud, a relentless cycle of vengeance fueled by spilled blood and long-held grudges. Their villages, though separated by a mere whispering wind, were worlds apart, each echoing with tales of past battles and simmering with present-day animosity. In the heart of this divided land, near the sacred Osun River, fate orchestrated an unexpected encounter. Amina, the radiant daughter of Chief Iliko, known for her fiery spirit and eyes like the midnight sky, had ventured to the riverbank with her handmaidens to fetch water. At the same time, Jide, the courageous son of Chief Ojo, a young warrior with the strength of a lion and a gaze as steady as the northern star, had come to the same sacred place to hunt. He moved with the silent grace of a leopard through the tall grasses. Their paths crossed unexpectedly near a giant Iroko tree, its ancient branches reaching towards the heavens like the arms of a wise elder. A moment of stunned silence hung in the air, the weight of their family's animosity palpable even in their youthful eyes. But instead of the expected hostility, a different spark ignited between them. They saw not the enemy, but a fellow human burdened by the endless conflict. They spoke, their voices hushed at first, then growing with a hesitant courage, sharing their weariness of the bloodshed and their secret longing for peace. As they talked, an unspoken understanding blossomed between them, a fragile seed of hope taking root in the fertile ground of their shared desire for an end to the suffering. They spoke of the mothers who wept, the children who grew up knowing only war, and the land that yearned for tranquility. In that sacred space, under the watchful gaze of the ancient Iroko, Amina and Jide made a solemn vow. They would defy the hatred that had divided their clans for so long. They would forge a new path, a path paved with love and understanding. They swore a blood oath, a sacred bond sealed by a shared drop of their blood mingled in the cool waters of the ocean, a promise to unite their families and bring lasting peace to their land. Welcome, dear viewers, to Storytime Africa. We are thrilled you've joined us for this captivating tale of love, sacrifice, and the enduring power of peace. If you're already captivated by Amina and Jide's courageous decision, please take a moment to like this video and share it with your friends. Your support helps us bring more of these powerful African stories to life. Now, let's continue their journey. Amina and Jide knew their oath was a dangerous one. Their families were steeped in generations of animosity, and the news of their burgeoning love would surely be met with fierce resistance. They met in secret, under the cloak of darkness or in hidden groves, their love deepening with each stolen moment. Jide would wait for Amina in the tall grass beyond the village, his silhouette blending with the whispering reeds as he watched for her arrival. She would move like a phantom through the moonlight, her indigo-patterned Adaya buba and arrow flowing with each graceful step, her braided hair gleaming with cowrie shells that caught the faint silver glow of the night. They would whisper their dreams beneath the vast African sky, their hands entwined as if the very stars above bore witness to their forbidden love. They dared to dream of a future where their children would play together, where the songs of their villages would blend in harmony, and where the scars of the past would finally heal. They envisioned a grand meeting, a coming together of the Iliko and the Ojo, where their love would be the bridge that finally closed the chasm between them. But reality was cruel. As Jide traced delicate patterns on Amina's palm, whispering of a time when peace would reign, a distant sound shattered their fragile world, the beating of war drums. The sound reverberated through the valleys, a reminder that their love stood against forces far greater than themselves. A fierce dispute arose over ancestral lands, escalating rapidly into open conflict. The warriors of the Iliko and the Ojo, fueled by years of ingrained hatred, prepared for battle. The elders spoke in grim tones, their faces lined with memories of past bloodshed. Amina and Jide were torn. Their loyalty to their families clashed with the sacred vow they had made to each other. They pleaded with their fathers, the respective chiefs, to see the folly of further bloodshed, to remember the human cost of their endless feud. But their words fell on deaf ears, hardened by years of pride and resentment. Amina's heart pounded as she turned to Jide, fear flashing in her dark eyes. "We cannot let this happen," she whispered, gripping his arm. Jide's jaw tightened as he looked out over the gathering warriors, his people preparing to march. "We must find another way," he vowed, though deep down, he feared that love alone would not be enough to stop the coming storm. The two armies stood on the edge of war, their warriors armed with spears, bows, and shields, the air thick with the scent of iron and sweat. The sun hung low over the battlefield, casting long shadows on the dusty plains. At the center of this chaos stood Amina and Jide, their hearts pounding with the weight of an impossible choice. Amina's vibrant Adaya buba and arrow billowed in the wind, the intricate indigo patterns gleaming under the golden light. Her braided hair, adorned with delicate cowrie shells, caught the last rays of the sun, making her look almost otherworldly. Jide, standing tall in the tall grass, his muscular frame clad in a hunter's tunic of woven raffia and dark cloth, exuded quiet determination. His bow and quiver rested on his back, but today, they would not be used. Under the ancient Iroko tree, they met for the last time, the towering presence of the sacred tree bearing silent witness to their love and impending sacrifice. The wind rustled its leaves as if whispering warnings or perhaps offering them one last moment of peace. Amina's hands trembled as she reached for Jide's, their fingers intertwining like vines clinging desperately to one another. He squeezed her hand gently, his dark eyes filled with sorrow and unwavering devotion. "It must be us," he murmured. "We must be the ones to end this cycle." Amina nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "Let our love be the bridge they refuse to build." The first war cries echoed across the land, warriors stepping forward, muscles tensed, ready to strike. Amina and Jide stepped into the battlefield, their steps slow but unwavering. Gasps and murmurs rippled through both armies as the couple walked hand in hand into the open, standing between the opposing factions. Amina's vibrant fabric rippled in the wind, a stark contrast to the blood-stained soil beneath her feet. Jide, the hunter, the warrior, now stood unarmed, his broad chest rising and falling with measured breaths. They became the eye of the storm, standing still while the warriors bristled with anticipation around them. Amina took a deep breath, her voice steady yet filled with emotion as she spoke. "This war has taken fathers from their sons, mothers from their daughters. It has soaked our lands in blood, and for what? Honor. Revenge. What honor is there in burying your own kin?" Her words carried across the field, the wind seeming to push them into unwilling ears. Jide added, "We took a blood oath by the Ocean River, swearing our love in defiance of this hatred. If we, from rival clans, can find love, why can't you find peace?" His deep voice held the weight of centuries of pain, and for a brief moment, the battlefield held its breath. Silence reigned for a moment, but soon, the restless warriors began to stir again, their grips tightening around their weapons. The general sneered, calling them foolish lovers blinded by fantasy. Jide and Amina exchanged a look, a silent understanding. Words alone would never be enough. Something greater, something undeniable, had to be done. Hand in hand, Amina and Jide turned their backs on their families and faced the sacred Ocean River, the place where their love had been sealed. With steady steps, they walked towards it, the wind howling around them as if mourning their decision. Gasps erupted from the crowd as realization dawned upon them. Their love, their very lives, would be the final offering for peace. The warriors, the elders, even the hardened generals, all watched in stunned silence. Reaching the riverbank, they turned to each other one last time. Amina lifted her hand to Jide's face, tracing the lines of his jaw, memorizing the warmth of his skin. "They will remember this day," she whispered. they will remember us. Jide pressed his forehead against hers, his voice hoarse. Always. And with that, they stepped into the flowing waters. The river embraced them, pulling them into its depths, their figures disappearing beneath the surface, leaving only ripples behind. A hush fell over the battlefield. Warriors, who had moments ago been ready to slaughter one another, now stood frozen in place. The elders trembled. The generals exchanged uneasy glances. And then, one by one, the warriors dropped their weapons. The clang of spears and swords hitting the ground echoed in the silence. The river had claimed its sacrifice, but it had also given something back: peace. The sun rose hesitantly over the battlefield, casting a golden glow upon the land that had been stained with generations of bloodshed. The morning mist curled around the fallen weapons, abandoned in the wake of an unimaginable sacrifice. The warriors of both clans stood in stunned silence, their hardened faces etched with grief and awe. Amina and Jide were gone, their bodies vanished as if carried away by the spirits of their ancestors. All that remained was the memory of their final embrace, the whispered promises of love that had defied generations of hatred. Chief Iliko and Chief Ojo, once the architects of war, now stood side by side, their grand robes of authority deep red and indigo soiled with dust. Their faces bore the weight of a revelation too painful to bear. These were not just warriors they had lost their own blood, their children, who had dared to love beyond the walls of enmity. The grief between them was no longer divided by clan, it was shared, a single, suffocating burden. One by one, warriors who had once sworn to fight to the death now stepped forward and placed their spears upon the ground. The metallic clatter echoed like a drum of surrender, sending ripples through the crowd. The finality of war had never felt so real. What had once seemed like an endless cycle of revenge now seemed unbearably foolish. They looked at each other not as enemies, but as brothers who had simply forgotten their shared humanity. As days passed, the land bore witness to a transformation unlike any seen before. The Iliko and Ojo clans, long divided by hatred, now walked side by side. The marketplace, once a place where glares and murmurs of resentment were exchanged, was now filled with laughter and the barter of goods between former enemies. Women dressed in vibrant Ankara prints wove fabrics together, their looms creating patterns that spoke of unity rather than division. Children, once forbidden from crossing enemy lines, now played without fear, their joyful cries echoing through the village. A sacred grove was chosen as the site of remembrance. Elders from both clans gathered there, their white robes swaying as they carved wooden totems in honor of Amina and Jide. Each symbol told their story, their love, their defiance, their sacrifice. A great bonfire was lit, not for war, but for storytelling, where griots retold the legend of two hearts that had mended a broken land. Chief Iliko and Chief Ojo, now bound by an unspoken understanding, stood together before their people. They raised their staffs and spoke not of power, but of regret. They declared that no child of the Iliko nor the Ojo would ever again be lost to hatred. Their voices, though heavy with sorrow, carried the weight of truth. The people listened, and for the first time in generations, they believed. From that day forth, the story of Amina and Jide was no longer one of sorrow, but of honor. Their love had not been in vain, it had been a bridge, a lesson, a legacy. Parents told their children the tale beneath the ancient baobab tree, where generations learned that love was the greatest warrior of all. Their names were whispered in reverence, not in mourning, but in gratitude. And so, the tale of Amina and Jide lived on, etched into the heart of Yoruba land. It was a reminder that hatred, no matter how deep, could be unraveled by love. That sacrifice, when given for peace, was never in vain. The winds carried their names across the valleys, rivers, and hills, a testament to the power of love to heal even the deepest wounds. This has been the powerful story of the blood oath of Amina and Jide. It reminds us that even the deepest divisions can be overcome by love, courage, and the willingness to make the ultimate sacrifice for peace. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Storytime Africa. We hope you were moved and inspired by Amina and Jide's remarkable tale. If you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to our channel for more captivating African folktales. Until next time, farewell from Storytime Africa.